Hello, we're here in Manchester, Tennessee, speaking with Mr. Bill Warner with Political Islam. Bill, I just kind of wanted to know why you're here today.
Well, I came to see the show. They said there was going to be a big show, and I would hate to miss it.
Fantastic. So what's the show going to be?
Well, supposedly we have law enforcement here and Department of Justice who's going to explain to us how we should treat, in particular, Muslims, I think, is what they're going to explain it all to us, what civil rights they have and how they've been violated. So I want to know how to treat people right, so I'm going to let them educate me.
Well, fantastic. And does this have anything to do with Sharia compliance?
Well, no, I think it does.
Okay. How would that relate?
Well, we do have to know that in the United Nations there's something called the OIC, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and they've been pushing very hard to make Sharia blasphemy and Sharia slander laws apply to everybody, and so that's a little troublesome.
Is that the defamation of political law that the United Nations is pushing?
Well, what the OIC is the most powerful group lobbyist within, I guess you call it political lobbying group within the United Nations, and their key thing is that we respect Sharia law. So they don't care if you're a Muslim or not, as long as you simply obey the Sharia speech laws.
Okay. What do you think we're going to expect to see inside the building tonight? What kind of environment is it going to be in there, do you think?
Well, we have 500 chairs set up, so they're expecting a lot of people.
Sure are.
And of course, what's interesting about that was originally they were just going to put up 100 chairs. And so talk radio has been on fire with this for a while, because some of the ways that the Department of Justice person put it seemed to be a little bit like, look, we can pop you pretty hard for what you put on Facebook. What's important is that the week before, when the soldier was killed on the streets of London, the British started arresting people who posted things on Facebook they didn't like.
Wow.
So what we seem to be working towards here in the United States is like, well, they're going to warn us, I think, tonight what we can put on Facebook and not about Islam or Muslims.
Okay, Mr. Killian with the Department of Justice keeps mentioning the civil rights federal laws. Are you familiar with those?
I'm sure I don't, but I've made the observation. And by the way, I was part of civil rights movement in the 60s. But I'll make the observation that civil rights now means that that's what a minority can take away from the majority. I think we're arriving at the point where the majority of Americans no longer really have civil rights.
Wow. And you're speaking of the 99% American citizens, and then you've got the Islamic population of about 1% here in Tennessee.
But the way we're currently handling all social problems, if you're the minority, then you're right. We don't even need to discuss it further.
Why do you think that the Department of Justice and the FBI has leaned toward giving preferential treatment to the civil rights of Islam?
Well, I think it's pretty clear. We have President Hussein and his vice regent, Holder, and they're shaping the entire Department of Justice. That includes FBI and all the AGs. So this does not arise out of nothing. We have to understand, why are these people here? I mean, what's going on in this town that's so important that you'll bring in special agents and Department of Justice people? This is a small town. So in my opinion, this is a lesson to be taught to the citizens.
So you think there's a bigger picture that we're not seeing, that maybe this will spread throughout the rest of the nation? If we can make it here, we can make it anywhere?
Well, we do know this, that they expected a very simple party. And I don't think that, my hope is this, is that the Department of or perhaps the Department of Injustice will turn around and look, let's not push so hard on this in this way, because I don't think that anybody likes to open up emails and stuff and read about themselves being portrayed in the way that these people are. So my hope is that we can show enough public strength that they'll realize, this is not fun fooling with these people. So let's try another approach.
Okay. I have also, in touching on the social post, I am very familiar with your June 6th agenda of the Speak Your Islam Day. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, this was put together by a friend of mine on the West Coast in response to the censorship and arrest of people who spoke their mind in England. And so he said, let's make June 6th. And what happened on June 6th? This was Omaha Beach, the invasion of Europe. So this is on June 6th. He wants to Speak Your Mind to Islam Day. That is, they're telling us in here, hey, you need to be careful, boys. You need to be careful. And we're going, nyeh. We'll show you, careful. Actually, I think what ought to be done is that everybody, since the Department of Justice and FBI shows so much interest in Islamic humor, anybody who has anything to say about Islam that they think is remotely humor, I think they probably ought to send it to the FBI and DOJ. They could create an entire department of joke analysis, you know? I mean, think of the jobs that could be gotten here.
Is there something I don't know about the humor inside the political Islam that I don't understand? Looking at it from the outside, I'm looking at our posts on. Most people would just laugh, but this enrages political Islam. Why is that?
Well, because of Sharia law. What did we had before? We had the, quote, Muhammad bomb head cartoons. Cities were burned, people died, because Islam does not believe in freedom of thought, freedom of expression. I mean, they're explicitly forbidden. Oh, you're free to do anything you want as long as it doesn't offend any imam or any Muslim. And there your freedom stops.
Is there any teaching in the Quran or the Hadith about that? Does it relate to present-day social sites?
Well, we do know that Muhammad did not tolerate any criticism of himself. We have the sort of, well, to me famous, incident where there was a Jewish poet who wrote a poem about him. And so what he did is he hired an assassin. Not hired, whoa, cancel. He said to the Muslims around him, he says, who will kill Ashraf, who has offended Muhammad and Allah? And a man says, I will, Muhammad, but I will have to deceive him. Do so. And so there are numerous events where Muhammad suppressed all criticism of himself. When he took over Mecca, the first thing he did was to pray. The second thing he did was to burn all religious art. And the third thing he did was to issue death warrants to 5 intellectuals and poets who had opposed him. So we get an idea from the behavior of Muhammad that he did not care for humor except his own. Now we do have occasions where he laughed, one playing with children, and another when the head of his enemy was thrown at his feet, he laughed so loud you could see his back teeth.
Wow. Wow. Speaking of the council that's going to be here tonight, I know AMAC is putting on this presentation, and they didn't advertise it, which I thought was very interesting. Maybe that's to keep the interest down. But what do you think will be going through the minds of the council in here? I saw about 5 or 6 seats in there. What are they going to be thinking when they face this crowd, do you think?
Well, I have no idea what they think. I mean, actually, it is hard for me to step into the mind of a Muslim because I'm such a believer in free speech, and the entire structure of Islam is built around doing everything exactly the same way. Bathroom habits, how to drink water, everything. So I don't understand that rigid approach to life, so I'm not really capable of even answering your question.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate your time, and I hope to see you later.
All right, thanks.